Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. Here's the president of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, John DeNuzzo.
Welcome to Lake George Battlefield Moments. Our guest is Jennifer Brink, Executive Director of Glens Falls Symphony and a major force as a community volunteer wearing several hats. Our focus today with Jennifer is the Warren County Commission for the 250th anniversary of the Revolution, on which she chairs the Major Events Committee. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, first off, tell us about the gala the Commission sponsoring on Saturday evening, April 11th.
Well, it's a gathering. We're thinking of doing many things, but one of the things is to kind of be an official kickoff for all of the big stuff that's happening that the Warren County Commission is putting on, that all kinds of other organizations are putting on, all kinds of special events happening all over our region with all of our special history to celebrate the 250th. And this gala is our kickoff. So the elected officials from our region will be there. We have a magnificent featured speaker who is Douglas Bradburn, a very highly esteemed historian who actually for a time was the head of the history department at SUNY Binghamton. So he has a little local history there, but is now working with Mount Vernon. So he is coming here to present and talk a little bit about the era. And we also have live music. Some members of the Glens Falls Symphony will be performing along with dancers from the New York Baroque Ballet Company and the Fort William Henry, which is where the gala will be. They're putting on a very fun, interesting, colonial-inspired dinner with all kinds of different selections, multiple courses, signature cocktails that are related to the period, reenactors, a musket fire demonstration. Don't worry, it's out on the porch. It's facing towards the lake. And just a whole evening of celebrating, learning, and being together and kind of celebrating this unique history that we have here in our particular region. I'm
thrilled that we have someone the caliber of Doug Bradburn coming here. It's talk about putting Warren County and the region on the map. A few months ago, I'm sure you remember, we had Rick Atkinson here. Mm-hmm. That was a super event, and that put us on the map. And similarly, I mean, someone the caliber of Doug Bradburn, I mean, you don't get any more American Revolution than Mount Vernon. And to have him, who's the CEO of that beautiful reserve dedicated to the memory of George and Martha Washington, where they lived and where Washington hungered to return to during the Revolution, is just so special. I know the other items you mentioned in terms of the entertainment, it's not just all Doug Bradburn. There's a lot of things, depending on your taste. I mean, if you're not a history buff like you and I are, there's still going to be a lot of things for you to take pleasure in. Give us some examples.
Absolutely. So there is, as many of you might know or imagine, there is a whole reenactor community, people who are very interested in getting to know either a particular person from history or taking on the role of a particular classic thing like a soldier or like a camp follower or whatever, and bringing those things to life. And so some of the reenactors who are involved with Fort William Henry and then some people from beyond there will be there. So you have a chance to kind of get a sense of the dress and the equipment and the muskets and all of that type of thing. So there's some pageantry and kind of fun color involved with that I think will be wonderful. And if you happen to be a classical music listener, the period of the Revolution is kind of right in the middle of what we call the Baroque era. So this would be composers who you may have heard of, like Haydn and Mozart. So Haydn and Mozart are the composers whose music people would have been listening to in Europe at the time that the American Revolution was going on. And so that is why this Baroque ballet troupe is coming up. They have a program that is focused on music of that era, dances that would have been performed, say, at a very special event, maybe officers or maybe people in New York City or whatever. So we're trying to provide something not only beautiful to look at and amazing to watch. These are very, very, very skilled dancers and musicians, but also to have a sense of what entertainment in certain corners might have been like at the time. So yeah, plenty of things to do, read, look at, experience.
When we did a colonial dinner at Fort William Henry's Carriage House, the same site we're going to do this April, the ambiance of the place and appropriateness to be talking about the 18th century, even though the Carriage House is a little later than that, just, I think, enhanced the whole experience so much. And to have that era's food on our tables, although we didn't eat with our hands, with a few exceptions, we did not eat with our hands, but it's still just a whole, you don't immerse yourself into the 18th century, I don't think, but you appreciate it more. You can certainly relate a lot more, as you can with a historic site. You say, okay, we're living in 2026, but I can figure out what it was like in 1776, for example.
Absolutely. I mean, the very short distance between the spot where people will be in the carriage house and, say, Fort George, I mean, you're just looking right at the lake. So you're seeing this beautiful lake framed with, in a beautiful window, but you're seeing that exact place where so many things, that were very consequential took place. So yes, there are many layers and levels of immersion, and yet, as you say, we don't have to be outside, sleeping on the ground in a cot in the middle of winter or anything. But it does give a sense of something different from today that puts you in another era, puts you in the time, and helps your imagination try to go, what might this have been like? What might this have been like? Oh, now I have a little taste of that.
Yes, and I know Doug Bradburn will be on the ground with us for roughly 48 hours. I know he's eager to see many of the sites that you and I see routinely, but I mean, from Saratoga Battlefield north as far as Crown Point, let's say, and all that happened there in the 18th century, and specifically, in 1776, we talk about Crown Point, Ticonderoga, Fort George, and other places along the eastern side of the Hudson River, and places like Fort Edward, Fort Miller, and so forth. He appreciates it. I mean, as you said, he spent time in upstate New York himself, but seeing George Washington's estate in Mount Vernon, Virginia, Northern Virginia, is one sense of the Revolution, but you get a different sense when you're up north here. And certainly what happened up here was more predominant, more important in the first part of the Revolution, the early 1775, 1776, 77, and so forth. So I think that it's almost like a refresh for him to be able to come up here and see the different aspects and kind of give, I think, the intro, if you will, to what it was all about for George Washington.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed not only hearing Rick Atkinson speak and everything that everything that he was doing here, but also hearing his response to how vibrant the school program was, how vibrant, it was. So, and I suspect I hope that will be the same with Mr. Bradburn.
I suspect it will be. So there's a lot of information. Maybe we could deviate a bit now from the night of the gala, but there's a lot of information out there and a lot of things that are being organized by the County 250 Commission. Can you give us a sense of some of those and where people can find more information about them?
Sure. So anybody interested in what these activities are, you can just Google Warren County 250 and you will find us. Sometimes you have to make sure there's a New York in there because there are other Warren counties. There is a calendar there and there are links and there's some history if you're wanting to brush up and have a better sense of what some of the significant events were that happened nearby. So maybe I'll mention some of the other things happening after the April Gala, which is the next event on our calendar is on June 11th of the 2026. The Lake George Music Festival is doing a performance. It's their final performance of the festival, and they're doing a premiere of a work that they've commissioned in honor of the 250th. So that'll be a special thing. We're hoping all goes well with the construction, that it will make that happen in the ideal place. And then on July 3rd is when several threads come together. So the Glens Falls Symphony has done its Independence Day celebration and concert every year on July 3rd for many, many years. It's almost 25 years. And so we decided on the commission and at the symphony to continue that because there are so many people who really have expressed over the years they love coming to an Independence Day event on July 3rd because then they can be with their family or up at the cabin or on the lake or whatever on the 4th. And so on July 3rd at Crandall Park in Glens Falls, there will be a concert. The concert will have many, many components. One is a chorus of over 100 community singers who will be singing in the finale. There will be a performance of a world premiere that the Glens Falls Symphony has commissioned from Chris Brubeck, who, if the name Brubeck rings a bell, yes, he is the son of famed jazz composer and pianist Dave Brubeck. And that work is actually called Knox Canons of Freedom. So he has written a work specifically for this unique place and this unique history. So that concert will also have works by American composers Morton Gould, Duke Ellington, John Williams, a suite from Hamilton, John Philip Sousa, Scott Joplin, all kinds of things. So it would be an American composer concert, and there will be the biggest fireworks production that we have ever put on. I did not know when I went to school to study music that I would later be spending some of my time organizing and filling out permits for fireworks, but indeed that is the case. We're very proud to do it, and it's really a wonderful cap to the evening. So that's the next big event, is July 3rd. And then on November 5th, there will be a smaller colonial dinner that we're doing in collaboration with the culinary program at SUNY, and that will be at Season. So that's on November 5th. So those are the major events that we have. You can look up, you can participate. Most of these, the July 3rd concert is free. Sometimes we have thousands of people there. So it's a big celebration. Sometimes people come in the afternoon, bring a picnic. You can wear red, white, and blue. There will be reenactors. There will be Boy Scouts and a little photo booth and all kinds of fun stuff to do.
Thank you, Jennifer. Let me I'll finish this with a personal question. I know you were raised in the western part of the country.
True.
So you see our history, our region with, although you've been here a while now, still relatively fresh eyes that people in Washington or Idaho and so forth don't see it with. What impresses or resonates with you in terms of the colonial era, revolutionary era history that you have here that you don't have in most other places in the country?
I would say two things come to mind. One is not directly related, but to me, I can't get away from the beauty of the place. I've lived in a lot of beautiful places, but this is by far the most beautiful. So to imagine, recreating, hiking, all those things, and being in these beautiful places, and then taking a moment periodically, which I do, and think, okay, let's picture this without, waterproof boots. And without, fancy wicking fibers and all of this stuff, and try to really imagine between the moisture and the trees and the density and all of that. So that's something that comes to mind. And then also, I would say, really, it has to do with the people. I'm interested in the history, but one of the things I really notice as a person who was born in the West is how many people in this community really care, really are interested, really read, really understand, really go visit, bring their families to the historic markers, and really dig so deeply into it. I really appreciate that. I think every human is elevated when they have a sense of some time that's beyond their own, some era where life was different. And I think it just elevates us generally to be aware of how other people live in another time or place. But also, I think specifically here, it really, to me, it's very grounding to have this enthusiasm by everyone who lives here to properly love and appreciate this history. So that's what I notice the most.
That is powerful. Thank you very much for all you do for your community activism and your work with the symphony, of course. We're very appreciative that you did emigrate here, I guess.
Thank you so much. That's
to
very sweet.
To the east. And once again, it's a great pleasure to speak with Jennifer Brink about the work of the Warren County 250th Commission. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
Our website is lakegeorgebattlefield.org. We thank you for being a part of our history.
Lake George Battlefield Moments, a production of Lake George Battlefield Park Alliance, preserving our area's incredible history. For more information or to check out the latest podcast, go to lakegeorgebattlefield.org and listen live on Saturday mornings to Lake George Battlefield Moments on 93.5 Lake FM.